How often do you use games, songs and videos in your English lessons? That's what young learner teaching is all about, right? Well, actually it isn't. Unless you see your job as just babysitting, which, let's face it, is how some parents see those of us working in the private after-school classes industry. But seriously, while games and songs can be lots of fun, they don't really give students a purpose for learning English. Yes, they may be practicing vocabulary and structures and enjoying themselves, which is important, but as soon as they leave the classroom, all this language will likely just fade away until the next lesson, because it is not connected with their lives outside the classroom. So how can we connect the language students are learning with the real world outside those four walls? With real world learning. Stay tuned to find out how you can introduce the world into your young learner classroom. Incorporating real-life learning experiences into the Young Learner EFL classroom is crucial for creating a meaningful and engaging environment. By connecting language learning to the real world, students are not only motivated to learn, but they also develop essential skills that will serve them beyond the classroom in their futures. Let's look at some strategies to help you get there. Strategy 1, get to know your students. A great starting point for incorporating real-life learning at a basic level is to get to know your students and their interests. Take the time to have individual conversations with them. You could also conduct interest surveys or have group discussions to discover what topics or hobbies or experiences excite your learners. This knowledge will help you tailor your lessons to their interests. You can bring in authentic materials such as realia, books, articles and videos on these topics, making the learning experience more relatable and meaningful for your students. You can also invite your students to share their expertise on the topics that they know about. For example, if one of your students is on the football team, invite them to talk about their team's strengths and weaknesses, unless you have other students on a rival team, or describe a recent match. If most of your students follow a team, bring in the league table and use it to invite opinions on who will win the league or where their team will end up. If you support a team yourself, talk about it. Talk about the players, its history. And if the class is interested in the topic, they'll be dying to ask you questions. You can tell I'm a football fan. But football is just one example, and I chose it because here in Spain, almost everyone has a favourite team, even if they don't actually watch football. But it could be something else like Pokemon or Star Wars. Strategy 2, make it hands-on. Experiential learning allows students to actively engage in hands-on experiences, and this allows them to make connections between the classroom and the real world. Also, it's fun. Try introducing STEAM activities such as a building challenge or a simple science experiment. You don't need lots of complicated materials. You can just use things you have around the house and recycled containers, and they'll be enough. You could also organise trips to local businesses or museums, places where students can practice their language skills in authentic situations. Alternatively, you can simulate real-life scenarios in the classroom, such as setting up a mock restaurant, and we'll come back to this idea later, or, as I mentioned before, conducting science experiments. As well as providing a deeper understanding of language and content, these experiences also foster critical thinking and problem-solving skills and teamwork. Strategy 3, participate in a real-life challenge. Real life activities and challenges are a great way to get students engaged in their learning. There's a really cool website called Zooniverse where your students can participate in real community research that is taking place. For example, if your students love animals, even the youngest ones could join in with a simple counting task. In this one, they have to count penguins. And in this other study, their job is to classify 2 types of squirrels. These would be perfect starting points for longer projects. Students could write descriptions of the 2 types of squirrel, or they could start an inquiry about them, or an inquiry about the penguins. Another option is to join Project Noah, a wildlife community where students can upload photos of different animals and things in nature that they spot. Strategy 4. Provide opportunities for realistic play. Pretend play is a fantastic way to get students to practice language in immersive experiences. Set up real-life role-play situations like a restaurant that I mentioned earlier, where students can step into different roles such as being a doctor or a chef or a shopkeeper, and they can engage in meaningful conversations using the target language. They can create props and even bring in real objects to make the setting more realistic. They could also take on roles of scientists, astronauts, or even sports stars and carry out interviews or pretend TV shows. And you could also record these. By creating this type of pretend world, students can apply their language skills in a practical way and in a contextually rich environment, which can really boost their confidence and make learning fun. Strategy 5 is introducing social justice. Our students don't live in a vacuum and they are aware of what's going on in the world around them. However, they may not understand what is happening or how it affects the people involved. Students hear lots of sound bites, some of which may be harmful, especially if they're exposed to social media. It can be helpful to discuss some of these issues and plan activities around them to help students develop social and emotional skills like empathy, social awareness, and responsible decision making. Invite students to share any questions they have in a safe environment. It's likely that they'll need to use their home languages for this, but that's okay. You can then teach them level-appropriate language that will help them express their ideas. It can be a great idea to show students videos or accounts of perspectives of different people, especially children their age or maybe a little bit older. And we can ask students questions to get them thinking about their own perspectives and privileges. For example, who makes the decisions? Who do these decisions help? Who do they leave out? Is it fair, and why or why not? How can we make whatever situation fairer? And what alternatives can we imagine? And finally, what can we do to help? Now, you may be thinking that this is all sounding great, but you have to work with a set curriculum and a course book, and you can't see how you can fit all this in. But actually, you don't need a lot of extra time to use these strategies. You can include them as part of your lesson plan, even when you're using a course book. Try to find real-world connections to the topic that you're studying. Or if it's too difficult to match with the unit topic, you could consider setting aside 10 minutes each lesson to do something a bit different. Incorporating real-life learning experiences into the Young Learner EFL classroom is not only possible, but also really beneficial in terms of engagement and motivation, providing context to what the students are learning, and giving them opportunities to develop other important life skills such as creativity, critical thinking, empathy, and autonomy. If you found this video useful, please do like and subscribe, and why not go and watch some of my other videos. Happy inquiring!